All right, welcome guys to another episode of Bookbites. I am so glad you could join us again. I have one of my favorite people in the world, and yes. I know you guys are used to hearing me say favorite people, but she truly is. This is the best friend, Ashley. Say hello to the people.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for the introduction.
All right. I mean, you have to have a proper introduction. So I'm so excited about this episode.
Me too. Long time coming.
Yes, long time coming. Okay, so I had to get ready. We had to pour some wine. Mm-hmm. Okay, I had to get the red lip just for you. Okay, because we got to show off.
Looking gorgeous.
Okay, as you will. Okay, all right. So what we're discussing is Sister Souljah's The Coldest Winter Ever. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're going to do the follow-up. Right here is The Coldest Winter Ever, and this is the follow-up, Life After Death. Oh my gosh. And if you are not a fan of Sister Souljah, she started off with The Coldest Winter Ever, okay? Then she came back with 4 before we even got to this. Okay? It's serious. So let's jump in and really talk about this book. And I want to give you some context because The Coldest Winter Ever,
yes,
I don't know if you know this, was my book that first made me a book nerd.
Really?
It was
I
like,
didn't know that.
This was the book that kind of defined me as a nerd, and this is why.
Okay.
I first found out this book, started reading it. Mm-hmm. My sister came back from college with her friends, and I was in my room, and I started reading this book, and she knocked on the door, and she was like, "Hey, do you want to go hang out with me and my friends?" And I was like, "No, I'm good. I'm going to read this book." And she was like, "You serious?" I'm like, "Yeah, I was totally going to read this book." So, you know, looking back, I was like, wow, I was really into the book and did not want to go hang out with my friends coming back from college.
It was a good read. It was a good read. I can say this. This is the book for me that really turned me on to Black literature, surprisingly.
Okay.
Not that I haven't read any books before. It's just that I kind of had a few sprinkle here, sprinkle there, but this really made me start making it a regular in my regimen of book reading.
Okay, so we are both fans, and yes. I'm pretty sure there is Black women all around the world who like the same. This was the book for me. So let's start off and really tell me how you feel about this book. Give it to me, because I need to know, because I've been holding this in. I ain't talked to nobody about it.
You don't even know how many blogs I had to avoid, how many opinions of people that I know read the book, and I had to ignore them. It was interesting. It was a long time coming. So I think that she took a whole different direction from what I expected.
Okay. So I want to hear your side of the story. I want to hear what you expected.
Okay.
From Winter, from the sister, from all of these characters, Midnight. What did you expect after reading the first one that you just kind of would have thought would happen? What would have transgressed as you're reading through all of these books?
Okay, well, with Life After Death, I was surprised that Sister Souljah decided to focus on her transgression and her descending into hell. I thought that she would have took a better outlook, because with her sister Porsche, we went through all of her struggles, and we saw how she matured and how she maneuvered and learned to survive and took on the skills that her father Santiago had taught her. And then you have Winter, who is still pretty much in the same state, you know, still very much immature, still very selfish. So it was just disappointing to see that, you know, instead of her maybe focusing on her going to hell, maybe we just could have created a different storyline that shows a more grown and mature Winter, or even picked up where we left off and just see her struggle and then develop relationships with the other characters and maybe lead to a better life transcending that way versus taking a dark avenue to try to find some kind of way for Winter to find herself again.
Yes, I absolutely agree. I feel like the character itself had no growth from when she was, 17, 18 at the time that she got locked up. And that mentality of being introduced to her in the coldest one ever, I believe she was 14, and she had just turned 14. And it seems like her mentality never grew.
Yeah.
She still had this very much mindset of being a hustler's daughter,
Yes.
of money over everything. You know, sex is the first thing and the first tool.
Yep.
And she never learned from it.
Yep.
What I can say that I did not like is there's a very a religious sort of background to this story. It came off almost as teachy or condescending in a way to me. And you know, people have their different religious outlooks and everything else like that, but it just seemed like it was too condescending and not really telling the tale of living life and growing from it. Like, we all make our mistakes.
Right.
We've all been silly and stupid and had one way of thinking, and then get out into the real world and discover this is not the case. I would have liked to seen more of this book in a real world perspective, not, you know, you haven't learned anything, and now when it's time to meet your maker, you're going through these stages of hell in order to redeem yourself so you can get closer to the Lord. It took a completely left turn for me, and I'm like, where are we going? Like,
yeah, that was unexpected, and I think that it threw a lot of people.
Yes.
And I think that maybe bringing in that religious aspect in a lot of ways lost the character. So I think that, like you said, and I said before, she should have took a different avenue, because this just wasn't what people expected, especially after the wait. Like, we've been waiting to see where winter is.
Right, we've been waiting over a decade.
Right. And just to find her in hell, it just got weird for a lot of readers. I think it turned a lot of people off.
Turned a lot. I think so. And even though, like I said, I tried to avoid all of, you know, every blog, every post when this book hit. I mean, so many pre-sales. So many pre-sales. I mean, I was one of them. I hit the pre-sale button, like, you can send this to me immediately.
Right.
I definitely did that. And then to get it, it wasn't just because it was a different take. It was because even with it taking it out of the real world, which honestly, this is one of these, it's a start, it's a catalyst for really talking about street lit. You know, we went into an era of street lit. This was a catalyst for street lit, really talking about hustlers and that drug life that we really got hit with in the 80s. And this really kind of was one of these starter books. So I felt it should have been kept in a street sort of setting, real world setting. So to take it, you know, to where we're down to hell, not only was it not what I was expecting, but it also didn't translate well. Yeah,
it didn't. And I think that, you know, she didn't consider her audience, maybe. You know, like, maybe she was just writing from a point of only her growth, maybe where she's at right now, maybe her own struggles or transgressions she kind of put on winter a little bit, but I think she forgot that, you know, the audience, what they loved about the first book. And I don't think she anticipated how they would react to this, because, like you said, I tried not to be a naysayer, and I wanted to see what it was like for myself, but, you know, after seeing it, you know, I have to agree with a lot of people, like, this might not have been...
Wasn't a good move, wasn't a good look. And to be honest, I struggled. I struggled to finish. And let me also say this. I was one of the first people to pick up Midnight and read it. I was like, okay, this is pretty good, the first one. Second one, this is pretty good. The Deepest Love Inside, the Portia story, it's pretty good. But by the time I got to the third Midnight, I struggled with the third Midnight. I'm like, just like, where are we going with this story? You know, he has 2 wives now. It takes on a very, very heavy religious setting. You know, there's always about, you know, Allah and what this is teaching, what this is teaching. Midnight does have this superiority complex. So it was a very interesting character. I love seeing such a strong black character.
Yes.
But the plot for me is very, very strung out, very lengthy, and it doesn't seem to have a goal or conflicts. It doesn't seem to follow a typical plot structure of, okay, where are we going with this?
Right.
What's going to happen?
Right.
Like, all I'm hearing is religion, condescending, you're not doing it how I think is best.
Right.
And
maybe a lot got lost in translation. like I said, like even when you go back to the coldest winter ever, I think it was a period in the book where winter often hinted at, why should I listen to Sister Souljah? She's very
Yes.
preachy and
Yes.
she just wants to tell everybody what to do. So
Mhm.
I think maybe a lot of that voice shined through in this book.
Yes. It has now taken front stage in the rest of these books, where that was just a snippet, but we got to see, really some plots, and is she going to learn from this, and is she going to grow from this in the coldest winter ever. And then now the last kind of 2 books are really just taking on, a very religious vibe or teaching sort of, conversation, instead of focusing maybe on some plot points. I think
so. I think that's the summary of it. Maybe the book wasn't as much about winter. Maybe Sister Souljah became the character in disguise,
and really more of a teaching aspect.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So here's what I had to ask, because I asked every person who comes on Bookbites. We've already discussed our moments of falling in love with this book.
Okay.
Right? The very first one.
Yes.
The very, very first one. So let's start with The Coldest Winter Ever.
Okay.
How critical do you think The Coldest Winter Ever is to our genre, to our culture, to literature in general? Let's just say that. So start with our culture in general, and then break it down to how you feel it connects to literature as a whole.
Okay. I think that it's extremely important. I think it's often misunderstood, our culture, and I think that it's good to have it in writing from our perspective, our voices. I think that it's very important to tell our stories.
Okay.
Because we need to be heard, and I think that it's critical for all readers. Like, as a reader, you want to feel you can relate to a story. You want to feel like you have a place in the world.
She does that beautifully in the first one. She draws you into their life.
She does. And, I think that's important to be intertwined into literature.
Yes.
And that more of our voices need to be heard, and more on the front street, not just be important to our community, but to all communities. Because, how can we understand each other culturally if we're not hearing each other? And I think that the best way to do so is to read it.
Read it. You got to read it. I also agree. I think the first book, I would say, is a must read for African American literature, period. Like I said before, I think it was a catalyst for what we define as street lit, which would be a subgenre. And I think it very much brought you into that life. It was not all glitz and glamour. It's not everything that you see on TV of, them having so much money and living this lifestyle. It really broke it down into, this is what's happening to our community. There's some bad sides of this. There's some, ignorance that we just really don't address. There's so many different factors, and what happens when you do lead this type of lifestyle. There's 2 ways of surviving this. Right. You're either going to end up jail, or you're going to end up dead. And just looking at all of those different factors and bringing that into one book was amazing.
Yes.
Amazing. Okay. So for literature in itself, I think is definitely a classic.
Yes.
For American lit, period.
Yes.
Okay, because yes, it's written by an African American author, and it does highlight a certain time period in American life. And that's what I think is critical to literature in itself. Because we have to consider that African American community and culture is part of America as a whole.
Correct.
This is a snapshot of what was going on at that particular time.
Yes, and I like that she progressed with the book, because so much of our African American literature is stuck in a period of slavery. A lot of classes are there, either the slavery period or the generation to follow. Once we got, quote unquote, freed from slavery. So I think that it was good that she kind of progressed the book, and I hope that Black literature continues to do that. Continue to talk about different generations, different eras, and different periods, because it's more to us than just slavery.
Yes, absolutely. This discusses, the grit and grime that was brought in from the 80s, and really what the crack epidemic really did to our culture, especially in New York. And I think it's, even though it's a fictional book, it really does capture, you know, what was going on in the community.
Yes.
Even though it does discuss some of the negative things, I think it does, you know, express, you know, some of our concerns.
Absolutely.
Which you can clearly see because none of these characters are winning.
Right.
At the end of the day, none of them are winning.
Everybody took a lot of losses.
Yes, a lot of losses. I think one of the most heartfelt characters in all of these books is really when her mom lost her beauty, when she got shot, as, you know, just being an after effect or casualty of what was going on with the father. And she couldn't deal with the loss of her beauty.
Yep.
She had no education.
Yep.
And, you know, she couldn't handle it. And she turned to the one thing they were selling, which was crack. And just that whole, you know, complete demise of the entire family,
Yes.
Based off of the father's decision. So it was good while it was going.
Yeah, absolutely. But then it got real.
Okay.
And then it
real
all
fast.
went downhill. And I think the mother struggled too. It was hard for her to come to terms with finding out that he also had a whole nother family.
A whole nother family.
Yeah.
Because she surely did show up at the jail.
Yes, she did.
Showed up.
So I think that kind of devalued her in a way too, especially when she finds out about this other woman at a time where she's already feeling low and already going through the struggle of slowly losing everything, her home, her kids, all her possessions.
Had to go stay with a sister that didn't really want him there and only wanted for the monies.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it definitely touches on a lot of different issues, and, you know, sadly enough, but true, it still relates to a lot of people today. A lot of people struggle they go through it still translates today, which makes it such a great read because you can still read it and say, okay, this is believable in this time.
In this time. After a while, I was looking for something more progressive,
right,
as my reading continued, because although I think it's critical to our culture, the writing itself, the characters did not grow.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
When I'm reading, I'm looking for character growth and I'm looking for different plot structures and really kind of seeing how we advance.
Yes. And I like, you know, like you say, even though I like that aspect what Sister Souljah introduced, I also like to show all of Black people, you know, show that there's more than one type than what you just see in the media and the movies, and even in books like hers. There's nothing wrong with the book. I think it was a great highlight on this aspect of people. But, you know, like I said, there are different types of Black people, so I would like them to spotlight more of, you know, the struggle of the Black house mom.
Okay.
You know, the housewife.
Yeah.
I think that's a good topic.
That's a good topic.
It is.
You know, we don't always have to be, you know, the negative. You can also highlight some positives. And that's really what kind of the books that I'm gravitating more towards, of really just showing, you know, different stories and really having, you know, a different perspective of real life that's not always just drowned out in the negative.
Correct.
So, okay. So let's follow up with another question. Okay. How do you feel these last few books are relevant to the culture?
Okay, I'm going to say that the following books, 7 or 8 out of 10, I felt like all their stories was good because, like you said, it showed character growth. You know, we were getting somewhere.
Yes.
I think that she really gave each of the characters their own voice and gave a great backstory to help us understand
who they are,
who they were. Exactly, from the first book.
This one. But this one, come on, tell the truth now. Don't be ashamed.
On a scale of 10, right?
Okay.
We're going to take it down a little lower, maybe to like about a 3-4. I don't want to do a 1-2 because I think I want to be a little bit gracious here, because I think that I saw what she was trying to do.
Okay,
it might not been the best way to go about it. But at the same time, just didn't live up to the expectations, and I just don't think it really served Winter the way it should, or even served her previous books. Okay.
Do you think we had so much expectations of this book that hits the score a little bit?
Absolutely.
Because this one was like,
absolutely,
right?
Which is why I didn't want to give it a 1 or a 2, because I felt like, you know, I need to put my expectation aside and look at it as just this individual read. Like, if I didn't read any of these other books before, how would I rate this book? So I try to be fair in that light.
Okay.
But it's just not on her normal level. I'm sorry.
Okay, so my score. Oh my gosh. I would say probably a 3.
Okay.
I would say probably a 3. And the reason why I'm giving it a 3 is the 1 and 2 points, if nothing else, are for the simple fact of we do need a book that's just like, we can't wait to see a sequel. Because in African American literature, sometimes you don't get sequels on top of sequels on top of sequels.
Yeah.
So we need that. We need to feel like, I can't wait for this book to drop. It's important to follow the whole history all the way through, right? I think we definitely need that. The third point I'm going to give it is simply for the matter of that it was different. I will say that. Because she did go way left. There's a point for creativity.
Correct.
There's a point definitely for creativity. However, the rest of the points are missed simply because it didn't follow through for the character. It just really didn't. There was absolutely no change for Winter as a character, period. It was the same 17, 18-year-old Winter. And it's not believable because you did absolutely no reflection in jail all of these years, and you have no connection to the outside world. So a lot has changed in this last decade. I mean, social media alone, and you have no idea how to navigate the outside world. And you mean to tell me you still think you're the baddest and the biggest just because of your father? But your father been locked up as well, and there's no weight being held here. Now, I've never been in jail, but it doesn't connect to me. There's no growth. There's no change in character all of these years.
And although I agree, let's play devil's advocate for a minute.
Okay.
What if, because that's why I didn't want to give it the points too low. I was like, okay, is it that I'm maybe being a little closed mind or a little small mind because of how I feel about the religious aspect? But playing devil's advocate, what if that was the point, that she just didn't get it? Like she was just
never
the
got
one who just never transgressed. Because I mean, we all know people who
never change.
They
never
stay true to who they are. So maybe to her credit, I want to give her a little credit there. Maybe that was the point with Winter. Like after all she gone there, after all she saw, after all she lost, she still was that same immature little girl. Looking to be this privileged woman who got everything based off of her father's name and her looks and her beauties. I mean, in that way, she was very much like her mom. Maybe jail saved her, because if she had not have gone, maybe she would eventually.
Oh, I never even thought about that.
Because her mother was not as strong as she first appeared when the book The Coldest Winter began.
Yes.
By the end, we saw how weak her mother really was. It was interesting that Portia ended up becoming the strong one. The real heroine of the family.
Yeah.
So maybe that was her point. That she just never learned. Never got the lesson.
I still would have liked it in the real world.
Yeah, true.
I would have liked to see that in the real world.
Like her not getting the lesson in the real world? Just take out maybe the more lesson of religion?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I did not like the hell setting.
That's fair.
Like, I would have liked to see her enter in the real world. And it's possible, because this book does lead us to, it is possible that, because she ended up being in a coma, spoiler alert if you haven't read the book, but she does end up being in a coma, and then eventually, coming to, and this is supposed to be, season 2 of her reality TV show. So maybe it will happen.
Yeah.
I don't know personally if I want to pick it up and read it, because I'm so devastated off of the last 2, the Midnight 3 and this one. It was a drag for me. It was really difficult for me to read it. Maybe we'll see.
But there's some redemption there. I mean, if she takes it and goes a different direction, but not too off the rails. Yeah. Like this one,
it's possible.
It might be possible. Maybe, like I said, playing devil's advocate, maybe it might be something that comes out of this that we just can't see right now. Sometimes some people's greatness, some people's artistry is ahead of their time.
Okay. Maybe.
In this moment, I'm saying no still, but
It's possible. It's possible.
It's possible that maybe some kind of way with the next book there will
be some, because there are a lot of loose strings.
Mm-hmm.
Loose strings. I mean, you're talking about from Midnight 3, we left off where, he had just married the second wife, and then kind of going through the struggles with her family. The first wife is pregnant. The second wife clearly by the end of that story has a baby that she's holding. But then in Life After Death, we see Midnight again, and he has grown children.
Yep.
So we also don't know how, the twins are with Midnight.
Yep.
So are all of these going to come back together?
And that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in seeing a dynamic with the sisters' newfound relationships.
Yes.
I think
because
that
all four of them live different lives.
Yes, I think that could be the silver lining, bringing them back together and then seeing how they now interact and learn to be sisters.
Can we change this from being a 3 to possibly a 4-5 because we don't think this is done?
No, it's a setup for something.
It's a setup for something greater.
Yeah.
We're going to give it that. We are going to give it that because Sister Souljah is so critical to literature itself. Much respect to her as an author. I know she's also an activist. Much respect to her. And the fact that she can pump out all of these books and it's pages on pages.
Yeah, it is.
Pages on pages.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. So let's give some respect to that. I'm going to give her some more points just for that because it is possible that this may have been the worst out of all of these, but we still are not done.
Right.
And we need a sequel.
It's more pieces to the puzzle that we have to explore.
We're not done yet.
Yeah, we got to put it all together. It's not all together.
The fact that we can have a book for decades, years that you can follow.
Right.
I mean, I honestly can't think of an African American book, that falls into that genre that we have sequels
And kept
and
people's
years.
interest,
Yes.
People wanted to follow. People wanted to know how these characters develop. So
absolutely.
I think you're right. We have to be fair. Put some more respect on her name.
Put some respect on her name. And say, okay, y'all may not have liked this one. Everybody don't hit a home run. And she hit a home run out the park with that one alone.
She did.
Period. Like nobody.
And she had some great follow-ups. So we got to give her credit for that.
No one will ever dispute number one being, amazing.
Right. Absolutely.
All right. So, are you ready to eat?
Yes.
Okay, so let's get it. Yes, welcome back. And as you can see, ta-da-da-da, magic plate in front of us. So, special request for fish and grits. Okay, so typically people like shrimp and grits. So you asked for fish and grits, and I couldn't think. First thing came to my mind, catfish. Drink-wise, So what's more perfect than a great meal with a friend, glass of wine, and just enjoying some. Pour you some more because I see you like that one. I actually chose this because it's got some spices to it. It's a red wine. It's got some spices, and I really think it kind of flows beautifully with this dish. So what we have here, guys, is we have the catfish nuggets. Okay. You're more than welcome to do a full fillet of catfish if you like. I did mine lightly floured instead of doing the real cornmeal heavy dusting. Reason why is because you have so much fullness with the grits itself that I didn't want too much bread on top of bread on top of bread on top of bread. Sense. Right? So I kind of lightened it up. Your grits are nice, creamy, smooth grits. I ain't gonna tell you what type of cheeses I put in there, but I threw some in there.
I know you did.
Okay, and then we've got a very spicy gravy that goes on top. It cools down with the creaminess of the grits, but we've got some real spice. And we've got some smoked sausage in there, beef smoked sausage. Some people do with andouille, I know, with the shrimp, but we switched this up a little bit. So dig in. See how you like it. See if we have another happy person. It does have a kick to it, guys. So, I know you know how to get the recipe now. If you don't, it's right below. Click it. Sign up. You can get the recipe. I promise you, this one's going to be amazing. But this one does have a kick to it. So if you're not ready for it, I'll show you how to kind of turn it down a notch if you like it. But What you think?
Everything's great. I think it all complements each other very well.
Thank you.
And, you know, I'm not big on spice, but this actually tastes good. So I'll be putting this on my list of foods you need to make. You get that phone call, you already know what time it is.
Good. So I love it. And this is one of my favorites. I'm going to tell you, somebody who's doing a later episode than you is mad because they are not getting a catfish dish.
Hey, Tiff.
She's not getting the catfish dish. So I'm like, sorry, somebody already called the catfish. So I'm happy that you enjoyed it and we could switch it up and do something different. And I want to thank you guys. You know, this is definitely something that I love to do. We've got some food and we've got some books and we've got wine and I get to talk to my favorite people. So I'm in heaven right now. This is perfect for me. So, you know, cheers to that. And
absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
You're my bestie.
You know, that's what we do. And you know, I had to look as fabulous as you today. Of course.
Always
nothing
gorgeous.
Else.
All
I learned.
This beautiful melanin, this black girl magic sitting at this table right here.
Oh my goodness. So you guys, you know, thank you again for watching another episode of Book Bites. And I will see you soon. Again, sign up, you know where. And we'll see you next time. There you go. Bye, guys. All right, cheers to that. Because we did that.